In August 1914, a German astronomical expedition arrived in the Crimea to map the stars. Within days, the Russian government arrested the team and confiscated their equipment. World War I had begun, and the scientists were now enemy prisoners. Albert Einstein had personally requested this trip. He needed the team to photograph a solar eclipse to provide the first physical evidence for his radical new theory of gravity. The outbreak of violence shattered the international scientific community. Colleagues who had collaborated for decades suddenly found themselves separated by trenches and nationalistic fervor. Einstein remained in Berlin, the center of the German war machine. As a Swiss citizen in a hostile capital, he was isolated from his peers and physically cut off from his family in neutral Zurich. While the geopolitical order collapsed, Einstein faced a professional crisis. His current gravitational framework, the Entwerp theory, was failing under its own weight. The math was inconsistent. Specifically, the theory failed to satisfy the basic requirement that a physical system must conserve its own energy and momentum. It also lacked covariance. Einstein believed a universal law should remain true regardless of the observer's perspective, but these equations fell apart whenever he tried to shift coordinate systems. European society was descending into irrationality, and Einstein's mathematical attempt to find an underlying logic to the universe had reached a dead end. Life in wartime Berlin grew increasingly desperate. Einstein lived through rampant inflation, recurring illness, and strict food rationing that left the civilian population exhausted and hungry. He was also ideologically alone. He watched with dismay as his closest scientific colleagues signed manifestos enthusiastically supporting the German military's aggression. Despite the deprivation, he maintained an intense focus. Through postcards and letters smuggled across neutral borders, he continued a technical dialogue with mathematicians like Tullio Levi-Civita and David Hilbert. The solution required a complete change in mathematical strategy. Einstein adopted the Ricci tensor and what he called Christophel's symbols to finally link the geometry of spacetime to the matter within it. Over 4 weeks in November 1915, he presented these finalized equations to the Prussian Academy. These new field equations finally conserved energy, held true across all coordinates, and reduced it correctly to Newtonian gravity in weak fields. By achieving this mathematical consistency, Einstein had described an underlying geometric order to the cosmos at a time when the world outside his window appeared to have none. This scientific breakthrough coincided with a shift in his personal identity. As he uncovered the laws governing the stars, he felt a growing moral obligation to address the violence on Earth. In 1915, he abandoned his previous political quietness. He joined the New Fatherland League, a group of activists dedicated to ending the war and establishing a peaceful European federation. Einstein began arguing publicly that blind patriotism and male aggression were the forces driving Europe to ruin. He used his growing status to advocate for an internationalist perspective. He proposed that the international scientific community, which functioned without borders, should serve as the model for a new intergovernmental body capable of preventing future wars. By the end of the war, Einstein's work was dual-tracked. He had published the universal laws for gravity and was now drafting a framework for universal human peace. After the armistice, the scientific world moved to test the theory. British astronomer Arthur Eddington led an expedition to the island of Principe to observe a solar eclipse and measure how much the sun's gravity bent the light from distant stars. The results were definitive. The light bent exactly as Einstein had predicted, proving that general relativity was correct. The public impact was immediate. The news that a British scientist had validated a German discovery so soon after the slaughter of the war made Einstein a global symbol of post-war reconciliation. This scientific triumph was met with a harsh political reality. Einstein watched with deep pessimism as the Treaty of Versailles imposed punitive terms on Germany, fueling further nationalistic resentment. The harassment he faced from German nationalists during these years matured his worldview. He moved toward a more flexible pacifism, embraced his Jewish identity, and became a vocal advocate for social justice and international cooperation. The crucible of World War I provided the specific conditions for general relativity to reach its final form, while simultaneously forging Einstein's permanent identity as a vocal, global moral actor.